a meeting with members of the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, Sept, over the news that senators earn about 29 million naira every month, the president of the Senate, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, said the executive arm of government is more corrupt than the legislative arm. However, prominent lawyer Professor Isse Sage has raised concerns over the salary of the lawmakers. He said they earn about 29 million naira monthly and 3 billion yearly. So the question, why are the senators hiding how much they earn per month?
That's it.
Secondly, Sept, while having a meeting with Dr. Saraki on Thursday, said, Oga, tell us about your earnings. Rather than answer the questions, he went to, Shebi, the executives are more corrupt than us. What really are they hiding?
How much they earn?
It's unfortunate that our politicians always, do this. I think it's like a game. When Nigerians are looking at the cup, just distract them with one serious issue. While they're busy doing that, you quickly wash the cup and put it back. It's, when a body like Sept is talking to the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, I expect that, at that point when what you earn is in question, you give figures. You say, okay, I earned this. And then you go and deal with it. Whether it's too high, whether it's too low, it's not the issue now. What are you earning?
But in fairness to them,
what is in question is what he earns.
In fairness to them, they're usually very quick to tell you what they earn, as in their salary.
Yes.
But the issue is not in their salary, their basic salary. Yeah. And the issue, and that's the pay slip they will show you. Because I remember 4 years ago when we went and we had an issue, the spokesperson then, Senator Baribe, came out with his pay slip. Yeah. And at that time, I think they were earning 700,000 or something per month. But that's not the issue. So
that's the figure I've always had in my head. If you ask me how much a senator earns, basic salary, I would say 700,000. But a TV station broke down what Professor Isse Sage mentioned, and their basic is about 2.4 million. So what really do they earn?
Maybe the check at the time that Abaribe had,
which was about 4 years
right now.
But hold on one second. Even let's even say, for the sake of argument, that they earn $1 million or whatever it is. The real issue, and the ones they are very protective about, is the allowances. Yeah. So when you have things like wardrobe allowance, newspaper allowance, you get an allowance for staff. You have hardship, the one I personally detest, hardship allowance. If it's so hard, stay home.
You haven't mentioned all of them.
It's wardrobe, furniture. So everything they wear, we are paying for it. Car allowance. Meanwhile, they're buying, so there's car allowance. Then they also buy cars, separate from car allowance. Yes. Exactly.
So the car allowance is to maintain the car.
You buy the car separately, and then they give you a car allowance to maintain.
So I read the spokesperson statement saying that why are Nigerians so bothered about how much they earn? Why are we so focused on what they are earning? Why shouldn't we just focus on all the things they are doing? And I keep wondering that if my housemaid is earning, let's say 10,000 naira, and she's giving me output of 8,000 naira, I won't complain. 2,000 naira difference is not bad. But if I'm paying her 20,000 naira and she's barely cleaning the house, then I'll be like, in comparison to what I'm paying you, you are not doing anything at all because I have an idea of what you're earning.
Exactly.
So that's where Nigerians are. Well, at the point that we feel that you go on recess, Ejo, that's like almost 3 months that they've been off since July. What have they been doing? Have they been getting paid when they are off? So I'm wondering that we feel that a lot of Nigerians are poor, cutting across Lagos, because we're seeing Lagos, we're seeing population go into they were doing campaign in Ikere when I went to Ikere, and I saw men on the bike wearing T-shirts, and I was wondering that if these guys have a job to do, they will not be taking bikes and doing James Bond stunts on the street of Ikere Road.
They're getting paid to do that.
They are going to get how much? 500 naira, just enough to eat for that day. So, because of the poverty, extreme poverty going on, because the schools are dilapidated, because the quality of education is poor, people are wondering, why should one man
earn so much
and be very defensive about it?
And it will be convenient for him to send his children to to get better education abroad, better healthcare abroad, while the people he's representing cannot afford better education and good health care. So I will take what the Senate President is saying, that the executives are more corrupt, and I'm one to always say that I will take both the good and the bad, even I don't care whose mouth is coming from.
The message, not the messenger.
Yes, right. So if you want to point fingers at the executive, good. I'm not going to distract myself from your message, from what brought us here, and I'm happy Sept said it. Sept said that We went there to get information about the salary. They did not tell us.
Yeah.
They just gave us another information entirely. So we're not going to lose focus.
They started another debate. They didn't start another. They didn't give any information.
They didn't give any information.
That debate. Now, when this back and forth started, you know, the personalities in question start to be my concern. That is the person of Professor Isesage as against politically exposed Senate President Olubukola Saraki, two-time governor, two-time Senate member, now Senate President.
Career politician.
You know, career politician. And for me, I want to hear Sage talk, even if he's talking rubbish, even if what the figures is giving is nonsense. I would rather work with what he's giving, because it's actually giving me figures, than, you know, the Senate President who is at an advantage position and he's not giving me any figure.
I want us to focus on what the Senate President said, which is that the executive is more corrupt.
So are they saying they are corrupt? Is the legislature admitting that they are corrupt, but the executive is more corrupt?
Exactly.
They see us, but we are the same.
I saw a tweet, somebody responding to Senator Saraki saying that, oh, so you know that you are corrupt.
You are just
saying that the executives are more corrupt. Now, this government came into being on the mantra of anti-corruption. Yes. And for 2 years, if they've done nothing at all, they have tried to fight corruption. So for somebody who is in the same party with the president and the vice president, somebody who is the number 3 man in the country,
pointing fingers,
to say that the executive are more corrupt, then who really should we believe?
Jumoke, but also when you say that the executive, when he said that the executive are more corrupt, I wonder what his job is as a Senate president. Because the legislative arm is not just to make laws, they are also serving as check on what is going on. So if you know that the executive, if you can say boldly that they are more corrupt than us,
what are you doing about it?
What are you doing about it? Because you are supposed to be...
Should he be reporting them to EFCC?
Ensuring that the EFCC is carrying out the...
Because EFCC is part of the executive arm, so ensure that EFCC is doing its job.
No, but you know that the EFCC only acts on petitions.
But
so if nobody has gone to report the president or the vice president of stealing money,
the ministers,
but look, as members of the National Assembly, you are representing people. Yes. So get your constituents to write a petition. Okay. Do something.
Okay. Aside that, you know, they have committees, you know, and they carry out investigation. I always refer to Senator Shehu Sani's investigation committee that brought out the rot in the executive through the what's his name, Babachi Lawal, his committee at the time, the SGF. Yes. So, you know, they do this over time. If he has figures, he has facts, he has document evidence, anything, he should bring it out in public, in the papers, because if you take it to the executive, they might cover up. Yes. Just give press, we'll help you, we'll put it there. Nigerians will see it, we'll know, we'll talk about it. So don't just give us one small excuse, diverting us from the case itself.
Are you agreeing that when they said to him, Senate President, sir, how much do senators earn? You should just give figures of how corrupt.
Tell us what you earn. And if you say the senior brothers corrupt past you, give us a senior brothers.
Okay. We'll talk about it.
We'll know about it.
Let's get tweets. Okay.
So don't just tell us.
Tweets are in loading. I have a few tweets, but we'll take them when we come back after this short break. We have a senator in the house. He will help us with all these questions that we have.
Former senator. With us. Former senator.
We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
True.
Thanks for staying with us. Almost on a daily or a monthly basis, there is fresh conflict situation or a relapse of post-conflict in Nigeria. With more than 250 ethnic tribes and various religious beliefs divided across geopolitical lines, how can we maintain peace in our society? To commemorate the International Day of Peace, which was celebrated last Thursday, our guest will be enlightening us on how to promote peace in the country. Joining us is the former Speaker, Lagos State House of Assembly, and a frontline politician, Senator Olorunibe Mamora. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Good to have you. So we're commemorating the International Day of Peace, which happened on Thursday, and that's why you are here for us to discuss how Nigeria, with all the geopolitical, ethnic, and religious, small flames burning here and there, you know, IPOB, Arewa, the OPC, and everyone, you know, just saying, even the Yoruba people saying we want our region back, you know, how we used to have it. But before we, you know, delve into that, as a former senator, having you on this, it is an opportunity for us to ask, how much did you earn as a senator? Since the present Senate presidents cannot say, we'd like to know how much you earned when you're a senator. And the hot topic that we had, what's your take on it?
Please, you didn't ask well. How much did you earn in total? Plus wardrobe, allowance, everything.
No, we just want to know monthly. We'll calculate the rest by ourselves.
Okay, all right.
Well, once again, thank you for inviting me. Don't forget that I left the Senate over 6 years ago, precisely 2011.
Okay.
And the best I could say in the circumstances is that I earned what I was entitled to earn as determined by Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission.
And that was how much?
That's what one of the senators' spokesperson mentioned, that nobody says what they earn
on TV.
Or nobody would come and tell you that openly. If you want to find out, go through the regular ways. But then we won't talk about peace. When I drive through Lagos, which you'd see a lot of young children hawking on the road. I went into Ibadan and I saw a lot of young children hawking on the road, some just begging randomly. In front of our hotel in Ibadan, a group of like 6 young women, young girls, their mom was sleeping by the side. They were the ones supposed to beg and hustle for food for the mom. The boys also moved somewhere else. And what kept recurring is, if these people are offered 1,000 naira or even less and given a cutlass, they would break any head. These are the tools that our generation, like when I was younger, our own set, the people that were not properly occupied with education and whose brain wasn't reformed, are the ones we're seeing doing some things right now that is causing discomfort, even from Boko Haram to all that. And a new generation is breeding. The younger ones now will probably cause more crisis in the next 10 years. If we really want peace, shouldn't we prevent rather than curing the sickness when it has happened?
Yes, I agree with you. You see, it all borders on issues of social justice. And usually when you talk about peace, you link it up with security. So say peace and security. And for me, you need to take it from the fundamentals. And when I say fundamentals, starting from the family, the peace at home, within the family, extend it to the society, the community, and then to the states, to the national level, and of course, you also talk of international peace. And there are things, you see, one of the greatest problems we have is inability to play by the rules or follow what we have in our constitution. You see, people talk about the constitution as being not what we really want. But I can assure you that there's no perfect constitution. But the constitution is there as a guide.
Okay.
And but even as imperfect as it is, how much of it are we, keeping with? Because if you look at the constitution, you see, stated their fundamental objectives and the directive principles of state policy, which is like the article of faith between the government and the governed.
Yes, sir.
And I remember precisely under Section 17, which talks of social objectives. And it says that the social objectives are founded on the ideals of equality, freedom, and justice. So the issue of justice is critical. Equality. Very, very critical. And you see, I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. that said, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. So justice is critical. Okay. And the issue you raised, of course, but the better developed societies they have a way of taking care. That's why, you know, they have social welfare, you know, social protection.
So what I hear
all these things are there.
Nigeria isn't just. For a senator, for instance, to be earning 29 million per month, like Professor Isse Sage is saying, and our public schools are dilapidated. To the extent that the senator can send their own children abroad, and then the citizens that have voted you in, their children become touts that you use for electioneering. So is there fairness, therefore?
Before you answer that, sir, let me add this. We had an infographic in one of yesterday's papers. It showed that the amount allocated to the National Assembly, legal aids, the Senate, House of Rep, was more than the federal government allocates to 27 universities. 27. The range of them from, I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but that's pretty significant to the point that you're making.
Well, you see, my take is that we may be missing the point if we're just picking these figures and we're not looking at the, you know, we are not taking a holistic approach.
Okay.
Now, the first thing to say is that, you see, peace building itself is a process.
Okay.
It's not a destination. It's a process. You are working on it on a just like democracy itself.
Yes.
It's a process. You continue to, and you never have a perfect system. If, for example, the United States of America, that is the bastion of presidential democracy, if they were at it after over 200 years, they will still not be having the issue. In fact, there are some states in the U.S. now that are still threatening to pull out.
Yeah.
So let's get it right that, no, I'm not saying that Nigeria is not just. We have our issues, but we must work at those issues with a view to really resolving them.
Like you said, when you were emphasizing the issue on justice, I felt, you know, you're on point because we have too many agitations already. But I feel that these agitations did not just, you know, come from anywhere. They came from as a result of bad governance, considering the fact that if we had basic amenities, security, good roads, infrastructure, people would, you know, people will not say, you know, we are feeling marginalized. But because bad governance across board, state governments, you know, federal government, local government, people are, you know, everybody is just, all four level of leadership is failing the people. So, you know, agitations are cropping up, and that's the essence of the way I understand the issue of justice that you were talking about. Do you agree that?
I agree with you. You see, that's exactly why I said we need to take a holistic approach to these things. But you see, fundamentally, you're talking of issue of peace, you will also be looking at what does the Constitution say? If you're talking about peace, you must be looking at equity. You must be looking at fairness. And of course, you must be looking at justice. And these are clearly stated even in our Constitution. You have, Chapter 4 talks of human rights. Those rights are there. But I need to add that no right is absolute. Every right is qualified because it has responsibility attached to it.
Rights and responsibilities.
Yes. So I'm saying that we must look at all this together before we can really address.
Okay, so he has highlighted that we have issues. I'm going to, you know, direct the conversation into solutions. When we come back after this short break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're going to take some of your comments. Please, let's take
Chibuzo Jonathan says, to promote peace, the government must learn to listen to agitators and not send pythons to their communities to dance. Unilag debater said, what was that? He claims, what was that he claimed the earned, talking to National Assembly? An earned claim shouldn't be secret, right? Adeni Yusuf said, we need simple examples of how much he earned during his time. Well, they should leave our former senator alone. Abiodun Akiyele says, more than 5 states can cover their debts, can't cover their debts interest from the FAC. One senator earning 29 million without producing anything to the bottom line. Wow.
Chukzi says, peace can be achieved when rule of law is upheld across all divide. We can't be lawless and preach peace. Justice, equity must prevail. Michael O. Oko says they are all guilty of corruption, whether executive or legislative. Nigerian leaders should learn to give back to the people who elected them.
Let me take this phone call out. It's Femi calling from K2. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, how are you, Jumoke?
Sir.
You were talking about peace in Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, you ask Nimbe Mamora a simple question. How much was he earning when he was a senator? He did not disclose. He was a senator. And the usual thing we have in the Senate, 29 million per month, sapping the country. Now, let's talk about peace. There cannot be peace in Nigeria unless certain things were done or stopped. Number one, quota system of education. Nigeria begins to cheat the children right from a tender age. When I'm from the Southwest scores 90%, and somebody from somewhere scores 40%, and 40%, the fellow who scored 40% was admitted.
Yeah.
Now the younger man from the Southwest will never forgive them.
Okay,
that
Femi,
is number one.
Thank you very much. We have a few minutes before we run off. I was
Senator,
going to ask him about, you see, we keep coming back to how much, you know, a senator earns, how much the executive earns, and it's not being proportionate to the minimum wage.
Good girl.
Do you think that we have a bloated, I've always mentioned this, government? You know, rather than have people at the grassroots who are really working for the citizens to enjoy the dividends of democracy, we're just paying a few elites at the top. Do you agree, sir?
Now, I must respond to, you see, I'm very clear in my mind, and I don't evade questions.
Okay.
He said, Nimbe Mamora was asked, he did not answer. That's not true. You asked me how much was I earning, and I said, I earned what
I deserved.
I was entitled to earn as determined by Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission.
That's all. That wasn't an answer.
It's an answer. It's an answer. It's another thing if you don't feel satisfied with my response. Okay. But to say I did not answer, I disagree.
Okay. In addition to Jumoke's question.
Then,
let him answer that.
You see, I said it, you know, before coming on here, that my position has always been, even as far back as when I was Speaker, that the cost of running government is too high. And that my position is that we should review everything downwards across board. Not just the legislature, because the focus is on legislature all the time.
Yes.
Let's look at what is happening at the executive. Let's look at what is happening in the judiciary. Let's look at all the MDAs. That's my position.
Can I quickly put a
But to continue to focus on one arm of government, I think is unfair.
Because
I don't believe, mark it, I don't believe it's unlikely that a senator will be earning 29 million per month.
Yes.
Per month.
Yes.
Go and do the projection for 109 senators and see what comes.
348 million.
Okay, so I wanted us to deal with solutions to the issue of peace.
So people have been asking the question of restructuring.
Now,
do you think, sir, that restructuring will bring us peace?
You see, it depends on what people mean by restructuring. You see, restructuring, people...
It's different to each person.
No, because if you're talking about devolution of powers, it's part of restructuring. If you're talking of
true federalism,
it's part of restructuring.
Or regional government.
Let me remind you, as Speaker in Lagos as far back as 1999, Lagos was the first House of Assembly that had a session on these issues, where our leaders then, under Afenifere, late Papa Sholanke Onosonya, Papa Mayu Adebanjo, Papa late Senator, who was the leader of Afenifere. They were all there. We had a discussion on all this. So it's nothing new. That's the way to go. There's nothing about that.
Okay.
But it depends on what you... Because
so what's your idea?
It's not about secession.
Yes. So
we must get that clear.
All of us agree that we must stay united.
We are saying that let us reduce what items. We have 68 items.
Yes.
I was talking about Papa Adesoya then.
Yes, on the
We have 68 items on the exclusive list.
Yes.
And we are saying this is unwieldy. We don't need more than maybe 10 or even less items at the center. And then these things, let's devolve powers to the states. Yes. That's what we are saying, so that people won't be having to go to the federal with, you know, on monthly basis. Yeah. That's what we are saying. That is that every state has certain things deposited in it. And it will help us to look inwards rather than just, you know, scampering all over the place for... That is what we are talking about.
Senator Mamora, we have to round up this discussion. It's incomplete, so we're hoping that you will come back.
It's a pity we couldn't even talk as much on peace. But let me make it clear that you cannot, you know, if you want to have peace, you must have equity, you must have justice, you must have fairness. Again, in a democracy, protest is legitimate for as long as it's non-violent. You need to, and don't forget, even by our constitution, in spite of all the fundamentals, fundamental rights that are there, you still have Section 45, which talks of restriction. Restriction comes in.
Right, there's a limit.
Oh yes, it comes in for the protection of public morality, public good, public order, and public health, or where your actions are such to threaten the rights of other people, then it must be curtailed.
Thank you very much, Senator Mamora, for coming. I would have asked the question of what your political future is, but we've totally run out of time. Thank you so much for watching.
I leave that in the hands of God.
Please stay with us. Tomorrow morning, we'll be right back. Have an excellent day ahead. Bye.